Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the class. Yesterday, we have started this chapter, Kingdoms, Kings, and an Early Republic. And under this chapter, we have discussed the changes that were occurring regarding the kingdoms and kings. And we have seen that in the previous chapter, we were discussing about the time, the time period which have been discussed in the previous chapter was around 3,500 years ago. And in this chapter, we are moving forward. So we are now discussing about around 3,000 years ago. So during this period, we see that some changes occurred in the method of becoming Raja. We have seen that in the previous chapter, um, some of the Rajas were chosen by the Jana. Jana means the common people. And now we see that around 3,000 years ago, some changes started to take place in the way in which Rajas were chosen. And in this, we have seen how the Rajas performed big sacrifices like Aswamegha Yagya or horse sacrifice in order to become a great Raja, a big Raja. And we have discussed um, mm, all the rituals which was performed in this Aswamegha Yagya and how this Aswamegha Yagya was done by the king. And then we have discussed about the Varna system which was prevailing in the society at that time. And in this regard, you must know this period which we are talking right now is around 3,000 years ago, and this is the period which is called as later Vedic period. Later Vedic period is that period in which the other three Vedas, that is Samveda, Yajurveda, and Atharveda, were composed. The period of Rig Veda is uh, known as early Vedic period, and after Rig Veda, that the period is known as later Vedic period. So there is a Rig Veda, early Vedic period, and the other three Veda, Yajurveda, Atharveda, and Samveda are the later Vedic period. Now, there is one more difference between this early Vedic period and later Vedic period. What we see that in Rig Veda, whatever content was there, whatever information we got from Rig Veda, that was about the area which was drained by the Indus and its tributaries. But now in this uh, later Vedic period, we see that in these three Vedas, whatever information or content is there, it is about the area which is drained by the Ganga and the Yamuna, which is in the northern part of the subcontinent, and Indus was in the northwestern part of the subcontinent. Okay, and one of the most important development of later Vedic period was Varna system. And under this Varna system, the society was divided into four Varnas: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaisya, and Sudras. And this division of people in four Varnas was hierarchical in the sense the Brahmanas were considered at the top position, and after Brahmanas, the second position was given to the Kshatriyas, and third position stood the Vaishyas, and at the fourth position there were Sudras, and the function of all these four Varnas were different from each other. The function of the Brahmanas was to perform rituals and sacrifices, and their function was to receive gifts, and the function of the Kshatriyas was to fight battles and protect the people of the country, people of their kingdom, and Vaisyas were the people who used to be farmers, traders, herders. Okay, and now the Sudras. So Sudras were those people who served the other three groups, and these were the people who were not allowed to perform rituals. And what we see that these people were considered untouchable also. So these people were ill-treated by the other Varnas of the society. And now, the most important thing about the Varna system was that it was based on the birth. If a person is taking birth in Brahmin family, then he will be a Brahmin. He may not be very meritorious, he may not be very talented, still he will be a Brahmin. And a person who is taking birth in a Sudra's family, he will be a Sudra. So this was the Varna system. And there were many people who did not like this Varna system. Like there were many who considered that the Kshatriya should be given first position instead of Brahmanas. Then there were many who were of the view that this Varna system should not be based on the basis of birth. And then there were many people who considered that the system, the practice of untouchability was a very unjustified. So this was the Varna system that was prevailing in the society at in the later Vedic period. Okay. Now we will see Janpadas. In the previous class, we have discussed Janas and now it's Janpada. So, what is the difference between Jana and Janpada? Jana is common people, which was governed by a king. Now, Janpada is also governed by the king, but there is difference between the area of the two. Janpadas are bigger than the Janas in terms of area and territory. And the literal meaning of Janpada is the land where the Jana set its foot and settled down. Okay. And some important Janpadas which have been excavated, in Janpada settlement which have been excavated by the archaeologists are like Purana Killa in Delhi, then Hastinapur near Meerut, Atranji Kheda near Eta. So all these are the sites of Janpada. And in these Janpadas, what archaeologists have found that people lived in huts and they kept cattle as well as other animals. And they also grew a variety of crops like rice, wheat, barley, pulses, sugarcane, sesame, and mustard. So first time we see that sugarcane was also started to be produced by the farmers. And then we see they made earthen pots, and these earthen pots were some of them were red in color and some were gray in color. So there were two they were in two colors, either red or gray. And there was also one special type of pottery which is known as painted greyware. And these painted greyware were the pots which were gray in color, and these they have painted designs, usually simple lines and geometric patterns were drawn on the pots. Now we can see this picture, painted greyware. This is the picture of painted greyware. This is the picture, painted greyware. Plates and bowls are the most common vessels made out of painted greyware. Okay, these are extremely fine to touch with a nice smooth surface. The surface was very much smooth, and it was very fine. And perhaps these were used on special occasions for important people and to serve special food. Like in today's time also, what we do, if some special guest is coming to our house, then what we do, we use some special crockery for them. We don't give them serve them food in those utensils which we use in our day-to-day life, but for a special guest we keep some special uh, utensils. These are called crockery. So in the same way, that time also used to people used these painted greyware on special occasion for important people and to serve special food. अगर कुछ special food होता है तो होता है ना अच्छे से कुछ बर्तन में खाया जाए, कभी कभी हम अपने लिए भी करते हैं, तो दैट इज द थिंग. ओके, दिस इज पेंटेड ग्रेवेयर. Now we will see Mahajanpadas. So what do we mean by Mahajanpadas? We have seen that Janpadas uh, were there, okay, around 3000 years ago, and now we are talking about 2500 years ago. And this 2500 years ago, what happened that some of the Janpadas became more important than others. And these Janpadas, which became more important than others, they came to be known as Mahajanpada. Maha means किसी भी चीज में जब हम महा लगाते हैं, इसका मीन्स वो बड़ा हो गया वो. ओके, राजा से बड़ा महाराजा, उसी तरह से जनपदा से बड़ा महाजनपदा. ओके, एंड वी कैन सी these Mahajanpadas are there given in the map: Gandhar, Kuru, Panchal, Kosal, Magad, Vaisali, Vajji, Ang, Avanti. All these are important Mahajanpadas. Actually, there were 16 Mahajanpadas at that time. And you must understand the difference between Jana, Janpada, and Mahajanpada. The difference is in the territory. The Janas used to be small in territory, and Janpadas were bigger than the Janas, and Mahajanpadas were bigger than the Janpadas. So, suppose if you have to arrange these Jana, Janpada, and Mahajanpada in increasing order, then what will you do? How will you arrange these in increasing order or ascending order? Ascending order means we arrange numbers. In mathematics, you do all these things. You arrange numbers in ascending order, in which we place the smaller number uh, first, and then the bigger numbers are placed. So in Jana, Janpada, and Mahajanpada, we have to arrange them in ascending order. We will arrange them like first of all Jana, then Janpada, and then Mahajanpada. So most Mahajanpadas had a capital city. In the previous chapter, we have seen that Rajas were not having the capital city. But now in these Mahajanpadas, there was a capital city. And this capital city was very important because the Raja lived in the capital city, and for the purpose of security, these capital city, many of these capital cities were fortified. So what is the meaning of fortified? Fortified means the capital city was having boundary around it, around the city. There was boundary around the capital city, and for the purpose of entering, there were gates. So this was done in order to mm, make in order to secure the capital city. And in these capital city, forts were made. Forts were built, and there were many reasons. Uh, the historians are not 100% sure about the reason, but most probably forts were made because people were afraid of attacks from other kings, and they needed protection, and for the purpose of protection, the forts were built. So forts were probably built because people were afraid of attacks from other kings. But there were some other reasons. There may be some other reasons also for building the forts. Like some rulers wanted to show their richness and their power by building very, very large, tall, and impressive walls around their cities. So, security was the reason. But other than security, many times the purpose was to show the richness. The purpose was to show the power of the king, the richness of the king. So many times the kings used to build large, tall, and impressive walls around their cities. So the second purpose was to show how rich and powerful they were. And what happened that by fortifying the city, the land and the people living inside the fortified area could be controlled more easily by the king. So the city is fortified. So and there are entering points. There are gates from which people can go outside and can get inside the city. And there were guards. Guards were there at the gates. So by fortifying the city, what happened that the land and the people who are living inside the fortified area were controlled easily by the king, because the king has every information regarding the people, and no one can enter the city without there will be security check at the gates by the guards. Whenever you go to the malls in present day time, malls or cinema hall, you must face that security personnel are there, and they do checkups, security check they do for the purpose of the security of the place. So in the same way, if someone wants to enter the capital city, then he or she has to undergo the security check by the guards. So in this way, what happened that the people and the land uh, could be controlled more easily by the king. So fortified were done for these three reasons. These are the three reasons. This is the first reason, this is the second reason, and this is the third reason. Now we see that such huge walls, in order to build such huge walls, what was needed? First of all, planning. Without planning, this type of fortification which we are talking about was not possible. So the first step was planning. Then uh, thousands, if not lakhs of bricks or stones had to be prepared. Thousands of bricks were required in order to build the wall, and for these thousands of bricks there will be need of enormous labor. Enormous mean very big, बहुत ज़्यादा amount में जब कुछ चीज़ होती है तब हम उसको enormous कहते हैं. तो for thousands of bricks there will be need of enormous labor, and these labor will be provided by thousands of men, women and children. And then there will be need of money. So money and labor. After planning the building of boundary, there will be need of labor, there will be need of money in order to execute the plan of building the walls. So you can see this is one of the picture of how this fortification wall is there at Kausambi. Kausambi was also a Mahajanpada. This is a picture of remains of a wall made of brick found near present-day Allahabad. So a part of it was probably built 2500 years ago. This is the example of how the capital cities were fortified. You can see the huge wall, how tall and huge and impressive is this wall. So this is the fortification wall at Kausambi, which is presently in near Allahabad, found near present-day Allahabad. And what is the time? Time is around 2500 years ago. Now we see that some more changes has occurred. The first change what we saw was the capital city were there, and these capital cities, many of these capital cities were fortified. Now the next change was that the new Raja now began maintaining army. Army was started to be maintained, regular army. In the previous chapter we have seen ना कि राजा के पास regular army नहीं होती थी, but now the Raja the king started to have regular army because the soldiers now paid regular salary. Regular salary was given to the soldiers and they were maintained by the king throughout the year. ये नहीं कि जब war है, जब battle है, then only the soldiers are required. So there is no need to keep a regular army. No. Now the king used to keep regular army and they were given regular salary. Some payments were probably made using punch marked coins. So now there was a system of payment was also developed and punch marked coins were used during this time. And we will read about this in the chapter 9 also. So now we will read about taxes. In present day also we give taxes to the government. Why we give taxes to the government? Because the government does so many activities for us. The government is involved in so many welfare activities. Other than this, the government is giving us security. The government is doing everything for the common people. So we need to give taxes to the government because the government is doing for us, so we must give the government some money in lieu of the services which is provided by the government. So this system of taxes was also started during this period of Mahajanpada. Why? Because we see that in Mahajanpada the kings used to build huge forts. The capital cities were fortified, and in order to fortify the city, there was need of labor and money. Money was required. Then, second thing, what we saw, the difference, the changes which occurred during this Mahajanpada period was the Rajas started to maintain a regular army, and this regular army was given regular salary. So, how from where this salary will be given to the army, to the soldiers? There will be need of money. So, both these activity, building huge forts and maintaining big armies, both these activities required money. Without huge amount of money, the ruler cannot do all these things. So, how this problem of money was solved? This problem of money was solved by levying taxes on the people. Okay, so now what happened? In earlier times, the Rajas were dependent on the occasional gifts. Sometimes someone comes with a gift and the gifts are not regular, isn't it? You can't force somebody to give you gift, na? So in the same way, in the previous time, in the earlier time, there was no system of taxation. Taxation was not there. People used to give gifts to the Raja, and as the spending was also very low, because we have seen there was no capital city, there was no regular army, so the expenditure of the king was low. So he did not need more money. But now we see that the expenditure has risen because of fortifying the city, because of maintaining big army. So now the Raja cannot work with occasional gifts. By receiving occasional gifts, the Raja will not be able to manage the expenditure. Now they needed regular taxes. When they will receive regular taxes, then only the Raja will be able to build huge forts and to maintain big army. And not only this, there were, in order to collect taxes, there was a need of officials. Raja will keep some officers now in order to collect taxes, and these officers will also need to be paid salary. जो ऑफिसर टैक्स कलेक्ट करेंगे उन ऑफिसर्स को भी सैलरी देनी होगी. तो ये सब क्या कर रहे हैं? ऑल दीज आर इंक्रीजिंग द एक्सपेंडिचर. सो इन ऑर्डर टू मीट द needs of expenditure, the Raja was required to impose taxes, regular taxes on the people. So regular taxes was started during this Mahajan period. So we see taxes on crops were the most important. This was because most people were farmers. At that time, the most important activity was farming. So how it was fixed? The tax was fixed at 1/6 of what was produced. Whatever a farmer is producing, he has to give 1/6 part of the total produce to the Raja as tax, and this was known as भाग और शेयर. भाग मीन्स उसका एक पार्ट, 1/6 पार्ट जो है, whatever is the total production, 1/6 part of that total production will be given to Raja. So this was known as bhaga or a share. Then other than farmers, there were craft persons also. People used to be engaged in different type of craft activity. So taxes were there on craft persons also. And how these taxes were imposed on craft persons? On craft persons, these taxes could have been in the form of labor. They are not they were not supposed to give any money or object to the Raja, but they were supposed to do some labor for the Raja. You can see the example, then you will understand it well. For example, a weaver or a smith may have had to work for a day every month for the king. So they are the craft persons. They are knowing the art. They are knowing the skill of making many objects. So they have to give tax to the Raja in the form of service or labor. A weaver may be asked by the Raja that he has to work for a day every month for the king. Or a smith may also be asked by the Raja that in every month he has to work one day for Raja. Then we see herders. This is about craft persons. This is about farmers. The first one is about farmers. Okay. And the second one is about craft persons. And now we see herders. Herders were those who used to rear animals, and these herders were also supposed to pay taxes to the Raja. And how they pay taxes to the Raja? They pay taxes in the form of animals and animal produce. Okay, animal and animal produce के फॉर्म में herders जो है वो राजा को टैक्स देते थे. Then the fourth one is there were also taxes on goods that were bought and sold through trade. So there were traders also. We have discussed Vaishyas. Vaishyas were the people who used to be farmers, who used to be herders, who used to be traders. So trading was done. Trading means purchasing and selling of goods. So this purchasing and selling of good was done by the traders, and these traders have to give. There were also taxes on goods that were bought and sold through trade. So whatever goods were bought or sold, that on that goods taxes were imposed by the king on the traders also. Then there were hunters and gatherers. These hunters and gatherers also had to give taxes to the Raja. And what was the tax given by these hunters and gatherers to the Raja? The tax was given in the form of forest produce. whatever is produced in the forest, like wax, honey, all these things were given to the Raja in the form of tax. So, in this way, in order to meet the expenditure of the kingdom, the king started regular taxation, and different group of people were different group of people had to give tax to the Raja. So then we will see that so many changes has occurred in the field of agriculture during this period. Many important changes took place, especially two major changes were there which took place in the field of agriculture, and because of these changes what happened, that the productivity of the agriculture increased a lot, and this became a very important cause for the prosperity and growth of the Mahajanpadas. And now we will discuss in the next chapter, next class.